Imagine this for a second. You're right there, on the edge of achieving something huge, getting into college, maybe landing that scholarship you desperately need, or even starting your dream job. You've put in all the work.
Yeah, all the effort, all the hurdles overcome.
Exactly. And the only thing standing in your way, it isn't some impossible exam, it's not fierce competition, it's just a piece of paper, a missing certificate. Now, for a lot of us listening, that might sound like, just a bad dream.
But it's not a hypothetical fear for thousands, literally thousands of students right now in Telangana, India. It's their day-to-day reality. We've been digging into this situation, looking specifically at things like caste certificates, income, OBC, even residential proof.
These aren't just forms, are they? They're keys.
They really are. They're the keys needed to unlock education, government help, basically a shot at a better future.
Which is why today we really want to get to the bottom of what people are calling Telangana's certificate crisis. We're going to try and unpack this bureaucratic black hole where, get this, over 15,000 student applications are just stuck.
15,000. It's a huge number.
We want to explore why they're stuck, look at the very real human impact this is having, and then maybe zoom out a bit, see how it fits into the bigger picture of education in the state. And hopefully figure out if there's a way forward. Okay, let's get into it.
When you say black hole or bottleneck, it's not an exaggeration. The numbers we've seen are, frankly, pretty shocking. Just try to picture it. 15,101 applications from students, each one representing a hope, a plan.
The future.
Exactly. And they're all stalled in various Mandal Revenue Offices, the MROs. These are the local government offices that are supposed to issue these basic essential certificates. This isn't some small admin error, it's a massive logjam. It's almost paralyzing the system in places.
15,000, that number alone is just stark. It's not just data, is it? It's like a whole chunk of a generation's potential just hanging there in limbo. So where is it worst? Are there specific areas feeling this more acutely?
Oh, definitely. Our research really highlighted a few hotspots. In Hyderabad district, for example, there are about 2,000 applications pending right now. And half of those, 1,000 students, have been waiting for more than 3 months.
3 months is a long time when you need that paper now.
It is. But then you look at Ranga Reddy district. That seems to be where the biggest pileup is. They have a massive 10,000 applications stuck. And here's the really worrying part. 4,000 of those have been waiting for over 6 months.
6 months, wow. That's potentially a whole academic year thrown off track.
It really is. And Medchal-Malkajgiri district isn't far behind Ranga Reddy. They're sitting on 3,101 applications. Again, about half of those, 1,500, have been delayed for over 3 months as well.
When you hear those numbers, you can almost feel the anxiety. Each number is a real person probably hitting refresh on some website over and over, or making trips to an office, spending money they might not have.
Yes, hoping for news.
Yeah.
It's not just dated. It's this collective wave of frustration and worry.
Okay, so that brings us to the why. Why are these specific certificates so absolutely critical? What makes them the golden ticket, so to speak?
Right. Well, they are the absolute foundation for programs like the Telangana ePASS scholarship. This is a big deal. It's set up to help over 2 lakh students every year. That's 200,000 students.
Wow.
Yeah, especially focusing on students from marginalized communities, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, backward classes or OBCs, economically backward classes, and minority groups too. For many of them, this program is, quite literally, a lifeline.
A lifeline for what, exactly? What does ePASS cover?
It's designed to help with post-matriculation education costs. So think tuition fees, living expenses. And it even helps cover visa fees for students who manage to get accepted to study overseas. It's significant financial backing.
And the numbers show that, don't they? We saw figures like Rs 140.74 crore dispersed just for overseas scholarships in 2024-25.
That's right, for 30,310 students, and there's another Rs 104 crore already lined up waiting to go out. It shows a real commitment for the state to invest in these students.
But, and this is the crucial but, you can't even get considered for any of this without the right certificate.
Precisely. No valid caste certificate, no income certificate, no access to this aid. You're locked out before you even start. Now, they did extend the registration deadline for the 2024-25 ePASS scholarships to March 31st, 2025.
Which gives a bit of breathing room, maybe?
A little. But for those 15,101 students whose applications are already stuck, that clock is still ticking. loudly. It's like having a ticket to the biggest event of your life, but you can't get past the gate because you're missing one specific piece of ID.
That's a really frustrating analogy, but it fits perfectly. So if these certificates are so essential, what's causing this massive breakdown? Who or what is responsible? When you ask the MROs, what do they say?
Well, the common refrain is that they're just swamped. Not enough staff, too many forms, drowning in paperwork. You can sort of picture it, right? A single clerk facing mountains of files. Maybe wishing for a truly paperless office.
Sure, you can sympathize with being overworked, but is that the full picture? Is it just about being too busy, or are there, like, deeper problems in the system itself?
That's what we found when we looked closer. Yes, being overwhelmed is part of it, definitely. But the real issue seems to be these built-in inefficiencies in how things get verified. It's very manual.
Manual, what does that mean in practice?
It means things like actual field visits to check if someone lives where they say they live, or to verify their income. It means physically comparing documents, looking for tiny discrepancies, a name spelled slightly differently, a missing initial. That can send the whole application right back to the start.
Wow, so it's incredibly time-consuming and sounds really prone to error.
Exactly. And it often feels like there's this underlying lack of trust in, say, digital data, which forces these extra physical checks. Plus, you add outdated systems into the mix.
Right, I was going to ask about technology. Are they working with modern tools?
It often doesn't seem like it. You get this sense of bureaucratic inertia, maybe systems that haven't been updated in ages, that we'll get to it when we get to it kind of vibe, which just makes the delays worse when you're dealing with such huge numbers.
And the numbers are huge. Over 200,000 students applying for ePASS alone each year.
It's immense. That volume just completely swamps the current capacity.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine asking a tiny team to handle all the support calls for a massive company. It just won't work efficiently.
So even if they have the ePASS portal online for applying?
Right, the portal's a good step. It helps digitize the application part, but it's not a magic bullet. We hear about glitches, system downtime, and crucially, you still often need physical verification done at MeSeva centers.
Ah, the MeSeva centers. Those are the local digital service kiosks, right? Often used in rural areas.
Exactly. So it's far from a smooth click-and-done process, especially for students in villages who might not have easy internet access or, be super tech-savvy. They still have to physically go somewhere, often multiple times.
So the digital front end doesn't solve the back end bottleneck. And we've also noticed this. I don't know, call it policy ping pong. You hear these big, ambitious government plans, more scholarships, better schools. Sounds great.
Sounds fantastic on paper.
But then the actual groundwork, the resources, the staff needed to make it happen smoothly, they just don't seem to be there. It feels like a disconnect between the big promises and the reality on the ground.
That disconnect is critical, and it leads to these grand ideas sort of being built on shaky foundations. And then, lurking in the background of all these delays and manual processes, there's the C word.
Corruption.
Yeah. Now, we don't have hard proof from our sources saying this delay was caused by a bribe, but the whispers are there. Talk of expedite fees is kind of baked into the administrative folklore in places like Telangana, unfortunately.
Because a system with long delays and lots of human touch points creates opportunities.
It can, yeah. When things are slow and not transparent, it can definitely create fertile ground for those kinds of practices, where maybe paying a little extra might get your file moved to the top of the pile.
Which is obviously completely unfair. And while all this bureaucratic stuff is happening, it's the students who pay the price. Let's think about someone like Priya. Let's call her Priya, from Medchal-Malkajgiri. Maybe she's the first in her family hoping to go to college, dreaming of being an engineer.
A very common story, a very important dream.
Her family is counting on that ePASS scholarship for tuition, but her income certificate, applied 6 months ago, still says under verification, no certificate, no scholarship. Her college place, suddenly very uncertain.
And Priya's story, even if she's a composite example, represents the reality for every single one of those 15,101 students right now. The consequences are just brutal.
What are the ripple effects? Missing deadlines means what?
It often means missing entire semesters. You can't enroll without the payment proof, which relies on the scholarship, which relies on the certificate. Delayed admission means lost time, lost opportunities. Maybe you fall behind, maybe you drop out altogether.
And for those rural students you mentioned?
It's even harder. Checking online status might be impossible if internet is patchy. So they spend money they probably can't afford on bus fares to travel to a MeSeva center, wait in line, only to be told, sorry, still pending, come back next week.
It sounds like an agonizing waiting game, just constant uncertainty.
It really is. It just drains your resources, drains your hope.
It's such a paradox because the EPS program itself, as you said, it's meant to be this beacon of hope.
Yeah.
It's designed to lift people up through education. Huge amounts of money are involved.
Millions and millions of rupees invested, yeah.
Yeah.
It should be transforming lives.
But the system delivering the key to access it is broken. The front-end portal is only as good as the back-end process. If the MROs can't issue the certificates, the whole thing grinds to a halt.
Exactly. The portal becomes almost irrelevant if the foundational step is blocked. And this certificate crisis, it isn't just some isolated admin issue. It feels like a symptom, doesn't it? A symptom of wider issues in Telangana's education system.
That's a good point, because it's not all bad news in education there, which makes this failure even more stark. We've seen some real bright spots. Students doing incredibly well in national exams, right? Like
Yeah.
NEET UG 2025.
Absolutely. Kakarla Jeevan Sai Kumar getting all India rank 18 is amazing. And 5 students in the top 100 nationally, that shows real talent and potential being nurtured somewhere in the system.
And the pass rates in the state board supplementary exams, the TS inter results for 2025, they were respectable too. 67.4% for first year, 51.7% for second year.
Decent numbers. So there are successes. But like you said, scratch beneath that shiny surface, and the challenges are still pretty significant. Government schools, for example, are struggling. Well, enrollment is surprisingly low. Only about 38% of students go to government schools, compared to nearly 61% in private ones. That's a big gap. Plus, we hear about issues like unpaid rent for school buildings, or a worrying increase in single-teacher schools.
So one teacher trying to handle multiple grades.
Yeah, which is obviously not ideal for quality education. Even the central union government has pointed these things out and asked the state to step up.
So the state is investing money that R's 1806 crore into the Samagra Shiksha scheme for 2025-26 is a lot.
It is a substantial amount, but it underlines the point that just throwing money at the problem isn't enough. If the underlying structures, the administrative processes are, creaking and inefficient, you need both investment and reform.
Okay, so if the current fix is the tracking portal, the helpline number basically just Band-Aids, as you put it earlier. What does real systemic change look like? What needs to happen to actually fix this?
It needs a serious overhaul, not just tinkering. First off, the obvious one, hire more people. Beef up the staffing in those MROs. More hands on deck means fewer excuses about being overwhelmed.
More clerks, fewer excuses. I like that.
Second, they need to get serious about going digital, properly digital. That means streamlining how verification happens. Use the Aadhaar database more effectively, maybe even use AI tools to flag inconsistencies automatically. That could drastically cut down the manual checks and the errors.
Makes sense. If you can order food and track it arriving in minutes.
Right. Why should verifying a critical certificate take months? It doesn't add up in 2025.
And what about the existing backlog, those 15,000 plus students?
That needs an urgent, focused attack. Set a hard deadline, say December 2025, to clear every single one of those pending applications. Bring in temporary staff if needed. And crucially, make specific officials accountable for hitting that target. No more passing the buck.
Accountability is key. What else?
Empower the students themselves. Make the ePASS portal genuinely user-friendly. Set up mobile-friendly kiosks or help centers in rural areas so access isn't a barrier. Make it easier for them.
And transparency. You mentioned that earlier.
Huge. Publish regular updates, maybe monthly, showing exactly how many applications are pending in each district. Put the data out there. Public accountability can be a powerful motivator. If we can track airline delays, we should be able to track something this important.
Absolutely. And finally, tackling that corruption issue head on.
Yes. Actively investigate those rumors of expedite fees. Send a clear message that it won't be tolerated. A transparent, efficient system naturally discourages that kind of thing anyway.
It sounds like a comprehensive plan, but is there actually hope this could happen, despite all the frustration we've talked about?
I think there is. As we said, Telangana's education system does have bright spots. There are talented, determined students. And the ePASS program itself, when it works, is undeniably a force for good. It does change lives.
And you mentioned political will.
Yeah, having leaders like the Panchayati Raj Minister, Sithaka, actively pushing for scholarships to be paid on time that matters. It shows there's pressure from within the government to fix things.
We also saw that big administrative shakeup recently, the IAS reshuffle on June 13th. New collectors in key districts like Hyderabad and Nizamabad. Could that make a difference?
It could. Bringing in new leadership, like Harichandana Dasari in Hyderabad or Tivana Krishna Reddy in Nizamabad, can definitely inject fresh energy and perspective. Now, just changing the names on the doors doesn't automatically fix deep-seated problems.
Right, shuffling chairs isn't the whole solution.
No, but it can be a catalyst. It signals that the leadership recognizes change is needed, and new collectors might bring a renewed focus on efficiency in clearing these kinds of logjams. It's a potential positive step.
Okay, so let's recap. We've journeyed deep into Telangana's certificate crisis today. We've untangled this mess of delays, looked at the systemic flaws, and really felt the human cost for those 15,101 students.
We've seen just how vital these simple pieces of paper are for opening doors to education and opportunity, and how this specific problem fits into the wider picture of education in the state, the good and the bad.
And for those students, right now, their futures are literally hanging in the balance. It feels like their lives are paused, like that typing indicator on a message that never arrives.
It really is an urgent situation. It's a call for action, directed squarely at the MROs, but also at the higher levels of administration, to cut through this red tape, clear the backlog, and get these essential documents into the hands of the young people who desperately need them.
Because honestly, if we have the technology and capability to plan missions to Mars, surely we can figure out a system to get certificates delivered efficiently here on Earth.
You'd certainly hope so.
So the final thought for you, our listener, is this. This story, while focused on Telangana, isn't just about certificates there. It's a really stark example of how basic administrative efficiency, or the lack of it, can profoundly impact individual lives and shape the future of a whole generation. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What might be the missing certificate, the bureaucratic hurdle, holding back potential in systems closer to home? And what would it really take to fix it?